Arch Linux began with a simple contract. You install what you need, nothing less, nothing more. Then installers arrived, GUIs, wizards, forks, etc. They didn't make Arch simpler. They made it pretend to be something else. Tonarchy tried to go back, but 7.2 gigabytes isn't minimalism. Dependencies aren't simplicity. Proprietary garbage shouldn't ship by default. So I broke the contract again, on purpose. I wrote my own installer in C. No dependencies, no fluff. This is Tonarchy. What's up guys, my name is Tony, and today I'm going to give you a quick and painless guide on Tonarchy. This originally started as a joke inspired by Tonarchy, but with the goal of being actually a bridge between Linux power users and Linux beginners. Tonarchy is what Tonarchy could have been. It's zero dependencies, no end curses, one C file, two installation modes, beginner and OXWM, a clean 2E built from scratch with raw ANSI codes, which ships as a single static binary. To download the Tonarchy ISO, just head over to github.com/TonyBanters/Tonarchy and click on this releases section here. And as you can see here, the ISO is right here, 984 megabytes. Click that and download that. All right, so I've loaded up the ISO here, and at the launch screen, we're gonna see this systemd menu. And I am on UEFI, however, it does support BIOS for older machines, but let's jump into the UEFI installation. So we are greeted here with this 2E, and this is going to just be a couple of questions and then it'll be an install. So just need your username here and then your password, confirm it, host name of the machine. I'm going to do Tonarchy BTW because I'm going to be using Tonarchy, by the way. And for the keyboard, I do have a US keyboard here, but if you got something else like Latin, you can use this fuzzy finder to find your keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and use US here for the keyboard. And for the time zone, I am in Los Angeles here. So again, we have a fuzzy finder for that. And these are pretty much all the fields you need to get started here. Now, one thing worth noting is we are in alpha version 0.1, which means we don't support Wi-Fi quite yet, but that'll come very shortly here. So you have to be plugged into Ethernet to get this to work, but yeah. All right, so now we see we're greeted to a menu here to either select beginner or oxidized. And you can navigate these with J or K or the arrow keys. Now, we're going to show both in this video, and I'll start with showing the beginner version, which is the XFCE desktop. All right, and then you just have to select your disk, and I will be using VDA here because this is on a virtual machine. So we're gonna check that disk here, and it's going to delete everything on that disk. So you have to hit yes here to confirm and make sure nothing on that disk is important because it will get wiped. And there we go, you're done. You can just lean back in your chair here. I'll go ahead and do that. And yeah, let's just go ahead and watch some of this stuff install, and I'll catch you guys shortly. All right, so the installation here is complete. So we can just go ahead and hit enter here to reboot. So we'll do that. All right, so we have the systemd boot now, and we see Tonarchy as the entry here. So let's go ahead and hit enter on this. And there we go. We are booted into the system in less than 3 seconds. And we've got our beautiful XFCE desktop. Now, a couple of things off the gate you're gonna wanna know is I have some binds here. So super enter is immediately gonna open up a terminal, and that's gonna be the Alacrity terminal. XFCE is sort of a floating window manager desktop environment combo. Now I've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s in the bottom left, you'll see that. So let's say I have this terminal here on workspace 1. I can hop over to workspace 2 here, and maybe we'll do super D to open up Rofi here, and maybe we'll open up the file manager. So the file manager is going to be Thunar. So we'll grab that, and here we go. Maybe I got our file manager here. So you've got workspaces, right? So that's good, but maybe you don't need workspaces. That's okay. Let's close this. We'll go back to the first workspace, and let's just open up a file manager here. Let's say Thunar here, and there it is. It's just a floating window manager, just like you're on Windows. This kind of looks like Windows XP. If you want to integrate the workspace management into this, you can. So I can move that over to Workspace 2 with Super Shift 2. I can full screen that with Super F. Go back to Workspace 1 with Super 1, full screen that. You know, you've got the capabilities of doing whatever you want out the gate. So again, we're gonna jump into this terminal here and let's open up Neovim. Now on your first Neovim launch, you're gonna see all these plugins get installed. I have gotten rid of lazy.mvim as a plugin manager and just wrote a very simple plugin management system here. So I don't have to depend on lazy just to get plugins. But yeah, once that's good to go, just hit enter and you're good to go with my Neovim config. We've got our Tokyo night, we've got our settings here, and we've got telescope set up. So we can see if we press space F5, we're right into our Neovim config directory. So for example, let's go to telescope.lua and you've got your keybinds here for telescope. And moving on over here, so we have Neovim. Let's close that. So Super Q we can use to close whatever's focused, and we can go back to Workspace 2 and we can close Thunar. One thing I wanted to include out the gate is Firefox with actual settings and extensions. So if we launch Firefox here by hitting Super D and typing Firefox, you'll notice right off the gate, it's already hardened. It's already dark themed. It's already Tokyo night themed. There's no corporate bloat right at the launch screen here. And I've got 2 extensions already installed. One is uBlock Origin, which is required. And the other one is Dark Reader. Now we can turn that off for now, but that's something you can experiment with if you want. But yeah, Firefox out the gate. You can go to, your favorite websites and start browsing whatever you need to browse. And yeah, the beginner mode is pretty simple. It's supposed to be something that will help beginners jump into Linux, but not overwhelm them with too much options here. So we see a clock and yeah, we have kind of a start menu here. This is the whisker menu for XFCE. And it looks like your old school Windows XP start menu. You can search it. So you can search this and we can say settings. Maybe we'll do display. And you got options here as a display. You can change your monitor's refresh rate. Maybe you want to change the scale, whatever. You can change whatever you need. So we'll keep this configuration. We'll close that. And yeah, this is a very lightweight system. So we'll clock this in. We see it's running on about 700 megabytes of RAM. Not as small as our Alpine Linux build, but not bad, not bad. So if we open up BTOP here, we've got some statistics about what we see here. And the system is pretty lightweight and pretty minimal. So there you go. This is the alpha version and this is the beginner version. So I recommend going from here and installing the programs that you want to install. So let's say you're not a Vim guy, you are more of a VSCode guy. So we can search for VSCode in Pacman here by doing pacman-ss VSCode. And we see the first result is the open source build of VSCode. So we can take that and that doesn't have the telemetry built into it that Microsoft ships. So we'll do sudo pacman-syu code. We'll go ahead and allow that. So now we should be able to run code here. Let's do code from Rofi. And there we go. We're right into the VS Code side of things. And we can snap that to the right with super right. Snap this to the left. And we are already in sort of a coding environment here. We've got a terminal. We've got VS Code, open source version. I'm not really a VS Code user myself. I just use Vim. So I'll close that for now, but just showing you the options of what you have available for you. I would definitely recommend going from here and taking Arch and installing what you want on top of it. This does all the base plus extra stuff for you. And I'm going to keep iterating on this and add more stuff as needed. But let's go ahead and check out the Oxidized variant. So we'll just shut this down here. So I've relaunched the installer ISO here and we'll go ahead and go back through this menu here. So same thing here, fill out the username and password and the host name, the keyboard and the time zone. But instead of the beginner variant, I'm going to check this Oxidized variant here. Same disk and hit yes. Turn on some Beethoven and let this rip here. So I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, so the Oxidized version has finished. So we can go ahead and hit enter to reboot here. And once again, we see the Tonarchy systemd menu here. And there we go. 3-second boot or less, and we're already into our OXWM Riced setup. So the first thing you're going to want to know, as always, is Super Shift / This is going to open this modal here, which tells you some important keybinds for OXWM. And as we can see here, we have the terminal as Super Enter. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I have no bars and no gaps in my config here. So some people think it's hard to determine the difference between what terminal you're looking at, but for me, it's never been a problem. And the bars and gaps are bloat, as the kids would say. So Super Q will close the program. So let's look at this terminal here. And once again, we're going to open up Neovim here. We'll do mvim, and that will immediately install all the plugins required with the Neovim config. And there we go. So we'll go into netrw here, and let's go to .config oxwm config.lua, and here's our config file. For me personally, I am barless and gapless, but we can set some gaps here to kind of show you what it would look like. So let's change every instance of 0 to 5. So now we have it inner gaps as 5.5 and outer gaps as 5.5 as well. And for the border, let's change that as well. We're going to change that to 2. Once that's been changed, we can hot reload here. And if you forget to bind, you can always pull up that help menu with Super Shift / and there it is. Super Shift R is going to reset here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do Super Shift R and boom, there we go. We've got our borders, we've got our gaps, and yeah, we're good to go. So we'll close some of these. So once we take a look at this machine, it is running on about 500 megs of RAM, and that's mostly Alacrity, because Alacrity is 220 plus megabytes of RAM. But we've got a pretty good system here. We've got Neovim. So let's go ahead and open up Rofi once again with Super D, and we'll type Firefox. Now that's automatically going to open on the 3rd tag. So we'll do Super 3 to get to it, and there we go. Immediately, 0 corporate bloat, 0 ads, 0 trackers. It is already case hardened out of the box. So there we go. You can go to your favorite website here, and let's turn off that dark reader for this website here. And yeah, take a look at some of these tutorials. Maybe take a look at some of the community posts here. Here's a little BSPWM community guide that was written by Null Sector. It's a nice read here. Pretty good setup instructions. And it's got that minimal Greek aesthetic clanker background, which is, I would say, required for a minimal setup. But yeah, looking at that, we got a lot of cool stuff here. And we'll go back to the tutorials here. If you want to do some light reading, check out this Linux from scratch tutorial. So if you want to know what binutils is all about, we can take a look at it here together. And let's say we want to go full screen. We can use F11, but we also, once again, we do Super Shift F. We see that it says toggle full screen mode. So let's do that. Super Shift F, boom, we're in full screen mode. We'll zoom in on binutils, we'll read about the linker, assembler, etc. Yeah, this is some light reading you can do while maybe you have Rick and Morty on in the background, increasing your IQ quite a bit. But yeah, Super Shift F to go back to regular mode. And a little bit of an experimental thing I'm going to show you guys here. So Super N toggles the layouts here. And once you get to this is a scrolling layout. So if we just keep opening terminals, we're going to see we can kind of scroll between them, sort of like Neary. And this is on X11, dare I say. So yeah, we've got that option. Let's see how many packages we have installed. 561. Take a look at some of these. We got a lot of Xorg stuff, got some VLC stuff here, and there is something incredibly bloated here that we can't really get around unless we switch to maybe a little bit of a Ardix distribution, but that's okay. A lot of library files here, of course. That's all she wrote for the packages. Now, as I said before, with the XFCE setup, we do have a file manager, of course. So let's open that up with the Rofi menu. This one's gonna be PC Man FM. So there it is. We're in scrolling mode, so it just opened to the right. Now we can toggle windows here with Super J and Super K respectively. And this is kind of your normie file manager. You can visually see what you're doing if you want to go in and see kind of the old school way. What's going on here? Is this lib.rs? Okay. Is this, okay. Yeah. But you know, you obviously can also use the terminal for that. You can do CD, OXWM, you know, LSLA type situation. Okay. And even better, you can go into mvim and boom, we're right in there. So we're in the netrw. Take a look at this default Nix file. Yeah, looks pretty good. So this is your Neovim terminal Firefox kind of default bare bones minimal setup. And I do recommend as I said with the XFCE, you take it here and you go from there, which means install what you want on top of it. In future releases of this, what I'm going to do is curate what the community wants and put that into consideration when I move forward with the next steps of, what packages are going to come on here by default, what the direction of this ISO should be towards, and where we go from there. So next steps for me in the immediate pipeline are going to be adding Wi-Fi to the installer, and then an option that is number 3, which will be a WLAN option. Now I'm considering Neary plus QuickShell. However, Neary notoriously doesn't work on virtual machines for a lot of folks, so we might have to pivot that into a Mango WC build. We'll consider our options, but there's definitely going to be a 4th kind of DIY mode, which will allow you to select all of the utilities that you want in a TUI menu and go from there. So long-term plans for this project are pretty optimistic. If you have any questions or concerns about this specific project, drop a comment and I will definitely respond or get back to you. So for me, with Tonarchy, I can spin up a quick system very quick and just immediately start programming. So let's make a directory here called projects. Let's go into that projects and let's do a cargo init. So now we have a cargo project here. We can do an mvim dot here and we'll go into main.rs. And as we see here, it is just literally a print main hello world function here. So let's execute this. And there we go. We see it says hello world. Now, again, as you've seen before in my previous videos, this is okay. But in order to get towards that more intellectual Mr. Beast side of things, we're going to need to make our hello world function that takes print in as an argument and obviously outputs hello world to standard out. So let's go ahead and do that. So we got to implement this here. So what we're going to do is let's make a new function here. Let's call it hello world. And that's going to take in a string here. So we'll do str. So we'll start this out with s.chars. That's going to give us an iterator over each character in the string here. And we'll go ahead and map each character here through a match statement. Let's take advantage of Rust's match statement here. So we'll go ahead and run a map statement here. We'll map P, R, I, and T to their respective characters here. And we'll collect these string slices into a string here. We're going to go ahead and turn that back into an iterator here with .chars again. And we'll go ahead and use inspect here to print each character as a side effect while iterating. And we'll do a dot for each drop to consume the iterator. And we need to make sure to print a new line, of course. Let's go ahead and test this out here. Now we have hello world print. So we'll do a cargo run. There we go. So that is what I would consider to be a more sophisticated Mr. Beast style hello world function. And yeah, we've got it dialed. So there we go. So thanks so much for checking out the video here. And as I said before, we are very much in a version 0.1.0 alpha phase, which means that there's a lot missing here. And I'm going to iterate on that as I see fit. So if you have any questions or concerns, as always, drop a comment and I will get back to you. And I would not be able to end the video without an obligatory Neofetch.